Travel Talk, where our expert magical memory planners discuss ways you can have fun, memorable, and stress-free family vacations. Welcome to Travel Talk. So on this episode of Travel Talk, we are going to talk about TSA PreCheck and Global Entry. So there are some great benefits to these travel programs, but there's also a lot of misconceptions and a lot of confusion about what they are, how to get them, and how much they cost, and who they can be used for, etc. So in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about both of these programs, TSA PreCheck and Global Entry, and give you some good information about what they are, and then some tips at the end about what might be the right program for you. So first, let's start with TSA PreCheck. So this is a trusted traveler program, and it's administered by the TSA, or the Transportation Security Administration. And that is a U.S. security system that we use at our airports. So the first thing to note is that the TSA PreCheck is only available on domestic flights within the United States traveling around by air. It is not for any other place. So even if you have TSA PreCheck and then you are flying home from out of the country, you will go through that country's regular security that they have. This is a US program. So when you have TSA PreCheck, what happens is you get, first of all, a separate security line. And that security line is generally shorter and faster. And that's for multiple reasons. But one of them is because when you go through the PreCheck line, you have like a simpler screening process. So certain things like you don't have to take electronics out of your bag. So your laptop, your tablets, your Kindle, all of those electronics can stay in your bag. They do not have to come out and be put in separate bins. You can keep your shoes on, which is significantly easier. And usually you can keep a light jacket on. Keep in mind that you are still following all of the rules that apply. So things like liquids. So if you're going through PreCheck, you do not have to take the liquids out of your bag and put them in a separate bin. But you are still needing to be in compliance with the 3-ounce liquid rule. So you still can't have liquids over 3 ounces. You just don't have to take them out of your bag. And of course, anything that is a prohibited item to take on an airplane or go through security is still prohibited. So that part is going to be the same, but it is quicker to get through security when you don't have to unpack your bag and you don't have to take your shoes off or take off your jacket or whatever. I will also note that things happen and you always need to follow the directions of the TSA security officers, because sometimes I've gone through and they want me to take my laptop out, or they ask me, to take something out that I normally wouldn't have to as a PreCheck, but, do whatever it is that they ask you to do. But generally it's much faster because of that. And the other thing about TSA PreCheck is that everybody, or your children who are under 13, 12 and under, can go through with you on TSA PreCheck. So if you have some children that are 10 and 5 and you have TSA PreCheck, you will all go through the TSA PreCheck line together, and that is fine. They do not need their own TSA PreCheck. Once they turn 13, they will. And so in our travel household, one of the rites of passage is when you turn 13, everyone's like, you're a teenager. I'm like, no, you're getting your TSA PreCheck. So they always get an appointment on all 3 of my kids. When they turned 13, they went for their TSA PreCheck appointments and got their very own known traveler numbers. So that's kind of what the TSA PreCheck program looks like and how it works. So how do you get it if that's something that you're interested in? So in order to get it, you have to go through a little bit of a process. The first thing is to fill out the application. So there's a company called Ademia, and they handle all the applications for the TSA PreCheck program. It's IDEMIA. So, but if you Google it, you'll find it. It's also going to be in our blog here and in the notes. But you're going to fill out that application. They're going to do a background check on you, and then you're going to need an appointment for your screening. There are lots of locations that have appointments for screening. Sometimes people think they have to go to an airport to do it. You don't. There are lots of locations around the country. In fact, there's over 500 locations that you can get your TSA PreCheck appointment done. And in our area here in Pennsylvania, our local Staples is a location that you can do it right here in Staples in Royersford, Pennsylvania. Shout out to them, where you can get it done. So, when you do your application, part of the last step is setting up your appointment, and you'll see all the locations that are near you to do your appointment. So that makes it really easy. So after you have your appointment and you get approved, you're going to get both a letter in the mail with your known traveler number as well as an email letting you know that you're approved and a link to go get your known traveler number online. And you'll be issued what I just said was the known traveler number, and it's usually abbreviated KTN. Once you have your KTN, you will see that on all your flights or when you book a new flight, that under the information or passenger information, there's a spot for the known traveler number or the KTN. So you just add that number in. In some airlines, if it's a regular airline you use, you have an account, you can put it in your profile, so it'll automatically attach it to you. If you already have flights when your KTN is issued, you're able to go in and update your flight information and passenger information and add the KTN. If it still doesn't go through and you print your boarding pass or, do your online check-in and you see it doesn't say TSA pre, then at the airport, they can add it for you and then reprint your boarding pass. So once you have it and you put it in before you book a flight, it'll be a pretty smooth process, but sometimes you have flights already booked when you're issued your number. So you just have to get those ones adjusted. So you did it right and the KTN is attached correctly when you get your boarding pass, and it says on it either TSA pre or TSA pre-check. And then when you get up to that pre-check line, you just go to that line. They're going to verify it says it on your boarding pass, and off you go. So sometimes at the airports, especially if you have a really early or really late flight, sometimes they don't have a TSA pre-check line open. You just let them know that you are TSA pre, and usually they'll give you a card or something that you can show to the security officers. So as you're going through with the regular folks, you can see that they don't have to take your shoes off or you don't have to take your computer out. They'll just mark your stuff and take you through. So you can still, access the benefits of your pre-check without the separate line. So just ask if you're at an airport that doesn't have a separate line, if they'll still honor that process. So currently, and this could change, but currently the price for TSA PreCheck is $78 and it lasts for 5 years. So that is a very long time and it's unlimited flights. So that's amazing. And then once you need to renew, you can do that online for just $70. So super easy process to get your TSA PreCheck. Once you have all the documents and you submit it, it's really not too complicated. So that brings us to global entry. What is global entry? So global entry is a little bit different than TSA PreCheck. In fact, it's a completely different program in the sense that it's run by the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. So it's really a different department, although it is another type of a safe traveler program. So the global entry is used at ports of entry into the United States by either air, land, or sea. And keep in mind, again, this is a U.S. Customs and Border Protection program. So you will not see anything for global entry when you arrive in a foreign country or leaving a foreign country. This is for arrival into the United States. When you arrive in the U.S. and go to immigration, like in an airport, for example, there will be various lines. And if you have global entry, you will just go to the separate line that's designated for those with global entry. It's a short, quick process to clear immigration and you'll be on your way. It is a huge time saver, especially if you have a connection to catch. So we just came back from Barbados and we landed in Charlotte and had to connect to a flight from Charlotte to Philadelphia. And we did not have time to eat because we do not yet have our global entry. We will be getting it shortly. And we had to wait in the full line for immigration, grab our luggage, recheck it, go back to security to get into the airport again. Thankfully, we have TSA PreCheck, so that was super fast. And then we headed to our gate. So if you have a connection on coming into the United States, you are really going to want to consider that global entry. This is another type of safe traveler program, and it can just be really helpful. And because it is a similar program, even though it's run by a different department, if you get global entry, they will also issue you a number for TSA PreCheck. So it's probably not exactly a bundle deal, but sort of if you think of it that way, that the TSA PreCheck is just TSA PreCheck, but the global entry, when you go through that process, you are getting global entry and TSA PreCheck at the same time. So that makes it really helpful. All right, so how do you get global entry? Again, different department, different process. So again, you're going to fill out the application. To get to the application, you're going to go to the Trusted Traveler Programs website. So that is going to be So at the Trusted Traveler Program website, there is the application and more information. There are less locations to get your enrollment appointment. There are only about 116 in the country. We have a hack, so don't worry about that. But there are a few less appointments. So you're going to go do your application like you would do. It's a similar application, a background check type application. And then you are going to get conditional approval, and then you are going to need to set your appointment. So either you will go to an appointment center, and like I said, there are about 116 around the country at this time. But if not, and you have an upcoming flight, you can do the enrollment on arrival. So what that means is you've done your application and paid, and you've done your gotten your conditional acceptance. And then when you fly back into the United States and you're going through customs and immigration really, when you arrive into immigration at a qualifying airport, you're going to follow the signs for enrollment on arrival, and you'll be able to go through the immigration process like you would normally and get your arrival appointment kind of done at the same time. They're doing the same thing, and they will go through that process. And then by the time you finish immigration, you have completed your appointment and you're back in the country and you're off to customs and on your way. So that could be a really great option if you have an upcoming flight. Watch for the timing. You have 6 months from once you get your conditional approval until you have your appointment. And it takes a little bit to get your conditional approval. So you're going to want to time it so that 3 months, 4 months before you plan to fly into the country, you do the application process. That way you have your conditional approval within enough time to then do the enrollment upon arrival. And that can just be a really great option. And there are lots of airports around the United States that have that. So, you can look those up, and it'll be on that Trusted Traveler site as well to see where those are available. So global entry, it costs around $100 right now, and it is also valid for 5 years. Also, a difference that you need to note is that everyone needs their own global entry. Kids cannot go with their parents on this program. So even a baby would need their own global entry to go through that line. So keep that in mind. And the other thing to note is you can't upgrade from TSA PreCheck to Global Entry because they are different programs. So if you already have your TSA PreCheck and you're thinking, well, now I have something else going on, can I upgrade? That's not an option.